practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols and messages, as well as all the lyrics of all the pop rock songs. And they all sing the same refrain. It's fun.
This is a special request. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another episode of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn.
And I'm your co-host, Mitch Shanasa.
Back in the driver's seat.
Back in action.
Co-driver's seat, I guess.
I always think of myself as the driver of the limo.
There you go. Okay, that makes more sense, yeah. I can see that.
Right? Like, I'm driving, but it's not, like, the best position in the vehicle. It's still the subservient.
There you go. Now that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, no, I know you're concerned.
I am very concerned. Watching out for that Mitch Shanasa show coming around the corner. So.
It's so much harder to say. I have to change my Jew name.
I know. That's for sure. For sure. So, got a pretty exciting show this week.
Dude, I've never been as excited about a show. We have...
Nestor
G.
You say that on every show. You can't do that.
Because the show keeps getting better and better.
All right, that's good. Good answer. Good answer.
But we have Nestor G right there. People on the internet should applaud. That's the man who taught me to grow and taught me the fountain. Literally came to my garage and helped me mix the soil. Don't be humble over there, Nestor. Literally taught me to grow. And then we have calling in kind of like an awesome organics lineup. We got the Rev from Skunk Magazine, True Living Organics.
Awesome.
Then we got Kyle Kushman behind the Veganics concept.
Awesome, yeah. Got him calling in.
And then we got the guy who really taught me all the advanced organic stuff and a lot of people on IC Mag, Clackamas Coot, who I've never even talked to the dude on the phone before, met him in real life, but
he's got such an awesome name. You gotta.
Yeah, he's the man. Like if you look at what he says and how he says it, he's clearly. I don't know. He's the dude who'll tell you, Mighty Wash, that shit's a scam. You can make that out of cinnamon and
No, we cut to the chase kind of things.
Yeah, so we'll have
Simplify
him on,
this.
And then in the second half of his part, we're either going to maybe get Microbe Man on too, and if we don't get Microbe Man on, we're going to do listener questions for Clackamas Coot, kind of anything about organics.
Cool, yeah. And right now is a perfect time of year to do this, just because if you're not thinking about soil right now, then you're not obviously a grower, because this is the time of year where you've got to think about how much soil you need for outdoors, or and obviously everything indoors just thrives right around now too, because during the winter, you're controlling everything, and then just once that spring kicks in and the beginning of the summer, I mean, when your grass is growing faster than your plants are growing, you're in that okay, I'm in the zone now. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is definitely the time of year to start preparing everything. And literally today, we're loading up truckloads of dirt at my house, so it's time to It's time to go.
Well, then in the last segment, we should maybe try to get a sponsorship from the Grokashi guys are going to be on.
Nice.
And that's the dude who does. I think he does the Emerald Cup too. We'll find out more about that. But.
I hear his name all the time, so I'm definitely curious to see what that's all about. And they definitely got the source materials there.
Yup. So, what else is going on? So, all right. So I'm a dad now, and I just real quick.
Let's say yes. Congratulations from everybody.
I know that I don't care about. Thank you. Thank you, studio. I'm humbled.
All right.
But I've realized, I feel like I haven't freaked out yet. I've been doing this for a couple weeks.
Been doing this for a couple weeks now.
And everyone tells me oh dude, it's gonna be the hardest thing you've ever done.
Don't you worry.
I just think being a grower somehow prepares you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So first of all, I've noticed one thing right away. Most dads probably are not used to looking at something that doesn't talk and try to figure out what's going wrong and it always does this and then it does this and that's not good. So when it starts doing this, we're gonna change it up.
Sure.
That really prevents a lot of shit. And I feel like the patience and mixing and measuring
it's
things.
The nurturing. It's your nurturing
Well,
qualities.
nurturing, for sure.
You have more nurturing, capability than as a grower possibly. Then maybe that's the angle.
Maybe that is the angle. So maybe pot growing makes you a better parent?
Could be, and that would be the exact opposite of what's out there in the world and people's minds. So it's like, how can you do that if they're not going to let you do that? Right. So,
Right. Exactly.
Come on now.
And I mean the odd hours.
But we've always known that too. I mean, you think about always like even in NorCal and the backwood growers and stuff. I mean, they always had like sort of synergy in those families because of the fact that the kids helped and everybody kind of did their thing. They got paid. Everything kind of rolled. Whereas if you went to the ones where the dad was an alcoholic and the kids just ran amok and nobody really did anything, wasn't really much going on there. But I know plenty of families that were like pretty well organized as kids just because they all had their chores to do, and part of it was taking care of the plants.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it provides a family-friendly work environment, I dare say, despite what the law thinks.
Exactly.
So we should shout out Way to Grow because, as we were just discussing, they have $400 EPAPs.
Oh, I know. The new sale is on. The new sale is on because last one was the dirt bag sale going on forever. It seemed
Right.
like.
This is the spring cleaning sale.
And now we have the dirt bag show. We could call this the dirt bag show.
I don't.
I just like the word dirt bag. It goes well with
You would.
organic growers. Come on.
What do you think, Nestor? Yeah, you're with it. Okay.
He loves
that
it
for sure.
He loves it. Anyway, the
Way to Grow. Yeah. So let's talk about EPAPs, why we're loving them, and how good a deal this is.
well, for $400, I mean that's already, way cheaper than I could ever get it at my
Right?
super
They're
discount.
like $600.
Yeah,
dude.
they were $650, and even with the discount, you were getting them at around $550 or so. So it was
Yeah.
like definitely time to jump in there and grab one of these. The bulb lasts longer. First of all, that's one of the good things, advantages of it right off the bat. Not to mention the massive lume and par readings that come off of it. I mean, it's
a better bulb.
Yeah, it is a very efficient bulb. And I mean, it also it has a very well-designed hood that actually releases all the heat. The main thing about them is they run a little hot. So if you got a room that's got real low ceilings or something, you're gonna have to double think that one. But if you have any kind of good HVAC situations, or if you just want to add one into a room to improve your quality of your light, I think it's awesome because they have a really, really good spectrum.
Right on. Well, you want to talk? You were talking about some news earlier.
Oh well, no. I mean, I was disappointed. I had some. It was normal news. It had nothing to do with the industry. So I was just disappointed in that whole exchange of one of our guys for 5 of their guys, and then the guy who we exchanged for turned out to be a traitor in the first place.
That's like trading 5
I mean, why
pretty
not?
good cuts and getting something, and it's just like, what? This thing has mites, and it's not even what you said it was.
Exactly. Exactly. That's pretty much what it looked like. And it was like one of those deals. The guy forgot how to speak English in 5 years.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, come on now. Who does that? You know what I mean? Like, that shows you he was some weak-minded person if you've already
Or
lost
it's bullshit and it's propaganda.
something like that. So anyway, I was pissed off. I heard that on the way in here, and I was just like, really? This is unbelievable. It's just like... But anyway,
I don't think it's actually possible to forget to speak your native language.
In 5 years, no. And unless you want to, I mean, you could
No
probably
way. You can
force yourself.
you can ignore your native language, but it's not like it's not going to register in your brain.
Yeah, no, it was a very strange one. Very strange one.
I want to talk to a linguist.
Good angle to sell himself in the talk show circuit when he comes back.
He can't speak English. What the fuck's he going to do on the talk show
Maybe
circuit?
he can all magically.
Well, the funny
everyone
part
has
was
attention. Now everyone's looking.
I think the dad started to learn the language so he could speak
Arab-
to his
like
son.
he speaks
I was
Arabic
so it went
now?
the other way
Come
around.
on.
Like now the parents are starting to learn it.
No way.
Come on.
I call bullshit. So, other news.
Real news. Real news in our world.
Real news in our world. Sad news. Sasha Shulgin died.
Oh yeah, that was weird too because I read the night before how they were all sitting around him and it was definitely like coming close, and then it was like definitely within that 12 hours because when I woke up it was the next news, But Shulgin, awesome guy. He definitely changed the face of psychedelics for the modern age basically because. Ecstasy, the obvious thing that everybody knows that he was one of the synthesized.
MDMA we're talking about,
Yes.
not those like quad stack Mac Dre's.
No, exactly. And but he also did about 200-300 other analogs, and there's a book called T-Cal and another book called P-Cal, and they're both his.
It's like phenolphthalamines I've known and loved. And
exactly.
What's the tryptamines I've known and loved?
Tryptamines, exactly. Yeah. So he and all these different analogs that he made. I mean, it's amazing. You read the book, and he tried them all, which is awesome. So he did kind of what we all do. He's experimenting on himself.
But he's keeping notes, guys.
Yeah, he kept notes the whole time. That's for sure. And some of them you were like, wow. Amazing that he would just go to the next thing after that, because that seemed pretty terrifying, actually, that one right there, you know what I mean? Because some of them were definitely pretty extreme, some of them were almost nothing, you know? And, but
so
interesting.
Is he literally responsible for all of the chemical drugs, like all the research chemicals and all that stuff?
If you read on the different analogs and stuff, I mean, it was like when you had all these MDEAs and all these different kind of, everybody trying to do something really close, but
the late 90s.
Exactly. And there was all these different, those were all pretty much from him. And they had these dinners, they have these dinners every month, and everybody comes by and they all kind of sit around the dinner and test. And so it was kind of a well-known, great little secret society thing to be checking out.
So have you ever been to the dinners?
No, I wish I had.
Do you know anyone who has?
I'm sure I do. I just don't, I can't say. I can't say.
You can't. I'm not going to ask you who it is.
No, but I'm sure. I'm not certain, but I'm 100% sure, just by the types of people and where it was at and everything.
You hang out with those sorts of people.
Yeah, I have been known to. How's that?
So when did you first read his books? Like, how old school are they? They're like.
I read them in Amsterdam, so probably mid '90s or something like that, and I think they came out, early '90s the first one, and mid '90s the second one. And
did you like, does it tell you how to make this stuff? Is it like that sort of inspirational material?
It's one of those things, if you're a scientist, you probably could pull it out of it because it's very technically written. And so you're like kind of lost as you're reading it. So basically on those things, you would go straight to the effects part of it all. You know, you'd be like,
you're like, oh, this makes you see dragons.
Exactly. So you'd kind of, it's almost like how you read a pill label. You know, you're like, let's go to the side effects first of all and let's see what this is going to do. But basically, same concept. You just go straight to the effect part of it all. And some of them were, like I said, so intense. And you're talking about, micrograms of product and life-changing sort of experiences,
like DMT type.
Oh yeah.
You know what I always thought was like super interesting, especially because it's legal, is salvia. Have you messed around with a lot of salvia?
I did. It was such a creepy high. I never really had fun with that one.
Super creepy, right? No, it's not fun.
No.
There's nothing. That's.
I tried it a few times, and it was like it's funny when I watched somebody. When I watched it work really well with somebody, it totally made me not want to do it anymore. Like at the point, because I didn't really get to the effect that I thought I was feeling anything good. It felt kind of like somebody had wrapped a Indian carpet around me, but I could still see through it. So I saw all these like kind of bizarre things, but my hands and my arms felt down, and I couldn't move them up or nothing. So it was very weird, very uncomfortable. And then the other time was I felt like I was on the other side of the room, looking at myself, smoking the stuff.
Yeah, that is the crazy shit.
And that one was kind of like, ooh, what's that?
It's so spooky. I feel like, I don't know, the way it feels to me is, I don't know if you've been to Disney World, but the safari ride in Disney where you're going through the jungle. Like, there's something a little creepy to that, and whenever I'm going through it, I'm always like, or as a kid, whenever I was going through it, I was always like, oh, relieved that everything worked out okay. But imagine if it didn't, and like the headhunters attacked, and there was like crazy shit happening, and gorillas attacking, and like that's what salvia feels like to me. So I don't know if is that how Shulgin describes the effects in his book?
He doesn't really talk about salvia because it's not a really name.
Right. But I mean, are those describes effects?
Maybe not gorillas. I don't think I ever heard about gorillas attacking anybody in part of his description. But he was very, very clear about it. I mean, he definitely didn't like just write real vague stuff. It was very to the point. And I mean, he's just an awesome guy. And I definitely sad that he's gone. But at the same time, I heard he was peaceful. So that's the most important part. And they never told him that he had like liver cancer or made it all extreme or anything. They just kind of. Old age, just the way you should. Back in the day, that's pretty much what everybody would say.
Well, that's what old age is. It's like the body fails. It's you drive a car long enough, now that car is breaking of old age.
Yeah, we don't want to know the details all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But apparently, he had liver cancer, so that was the inevitable.
So the liver is an organ that filters shit that you put in your body. So maybe
go figure.
Maybe. So I posted on Facebook that story. I'm sure you know it, of when Terrence McKenna got diagnosed. He had a tumor in his brain the size of a golf ball, and he went to the oncologist. This is a story he propagated, so I tend to believe it. And the oncologist told him, well, look, you have a tumor the size of a golf ball. And McKenna said, well, man, this has to be because I did all those damn drugs. And the doctor goes, no, there's been no causal link established between brain cancer and psychedelic use. And he goes, well, then it's just got to be all that damn dope I smoked. I knew I shouldn't have. I killed myself. And the doctor said, no, actually, cannabis has been proven to reduce the size of brain tumors. And apparently McKenna sort of like completely stopped the action and was like, Doc, if cannabis reduced brain tumors, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
There you go.
That's kind of how, like, do you walk around feeling I don't want to say cancer-proof, knock on wood, but you feel extra, like you're doing something to prevent
I figure we're doing, yeah, exactly. The way I look at it is we are preventative. And you know, if you eat good and smoke weed, I figure you're going to have a much better chance right then and there. Knock out a few of the obvious ones, the tobacco and the heavy alcohol use and all that stuff.
Refined sugars.
See, I say heavy alcohol use because I can't say alcohol.
Well, no, heavy alcohol.
I can't be hypocrite.
Everything in moderation, I think, is generally the motto. Fermented foods. I'm going to hype that. Can I do a kombucha giveaway at the lab?
Sure.
I wonder if she'll.
Have you been making any lately?
Dude, I have a 90-day brew. That's like, if you're not into kombucha, you're not going to be into it, but it's quite something. Because usually you brew it like 30 days.
So it's got a little extra wang to it, basically.
More than it's like if you're into like taking a shot of apple cider vinegar, you'll dig this stuff.
Oh yeah, that's what I do all the time. Look at Chris loves it.
How
Chris
healthy.
loves it.
My parents actually just were here for the baby, and they have a catering company, and they're like all into food, and you know, my mom was just like appalled. It's like she walked into my house and she saw like it was like a shooting gallery and there was needles everywhere. She was like, all this food, like, how do you eat this? What are you eating? Like disgusted with what we eat.
Really?
But it's okay. By the end of it, she came to understand that
you have like real esoteric sort of diet there. Or what do you guys?
I mean, like, I guess, or we just like eat healthy. Like we don't have shitty stuff in the cabinet.
The thing about healthy eating is sometimes it's like it depends where you go to people's houses. Because healthy for one person is
for sure,
absolutely have no idea what the hell's going on.
We eat a lot of
low-fat Twinkies.
Yeah, exactly.
That's you're healthy. That's
See,
your
that's my mom's. That's my mom's
healthy.
healthy.
That's bike healthy over there. Wow, look, low fat everything. So healthy.
That's my mom's
soda.
healthy.
What?
And that's all the worst stuff too. That category. If you lived in that zone, man, I'd feel so bad for you because that's like all the scams.
A lot of people do. You see people walking out of convenience stores with giant sodas, like the
yeah, you're like, wow, you just ruined your kidneys.
I'm guilty.
My mouth a little.
Yeah, I'm guilty of peering into every single person's fucking cab. Like every time someone walks by, and I'm always comparing my fucking carriage to their carriage.
Oh yeah.
Check out my healthy carriage.
Yeah.
It's all full of veggies and nice stuff. And then look at yours. It's like Twinkies and sodas and 10,000 sodas. I can't believe how many sodas people drink. It's hot out. Like I'll watch the whole family come up.
There's
they got
these new
20
kombucha sodas
things of
out
soda. You're just like
that I gotta advocate
people don't drink
for.
anything but soda.
Oh, while we're talking about drinks, first of all, while we're talking about food, let's talk about Incredibles. Incredibles, the best edibles in Colorado, medical, recreational. If you're in town because you live here, if you're in town because you're visiting.
Yep.
A lot of people who have come to town told me that their favorite thing they encountered new here was the edibles.
Of course.
And if you want the best, Incredibles the way to go for sure.
Awesome stuff. 12 flavors.
And I'm going to big up, I think it's Guayaki. I don't know their name because I haven't communicated with them directly, but I drink these things every show. And if you know how to get a hold of these guys, I would love to get sponsored by them because they give me my radio trichomes is what I said. Like they keep me glowing.
Really?
Have you seen this Maureen Dowd New York Times piece about edibles in Denver?
No.
I saw it, but we'll talk about that a little later. We're going to call the Rev, though.
Do it.
Nice. You got that number handy, Chris? That'll be the first dial up there. The Rev, if you're listening, please turn your computer speakers down or it's going to make everything sound crazy for a reason I can't explain.
Hello?
Hey, is this the Rev?
Yeah.
Hey, Rev, what's going on? It's Mitch with the Adam Dunn Show.
And Adam Dunn, you're live.
You are live, and we got Nestor G, Cannabis Cup winner, in the studio as well.
All right.
So,
well, I'm glad to be here with you guys. I hope I can clear you up on anything you don't know about TLO. I almost choked to death on a strawberry about 5 minutes ago, so Sorry about my voice.
Good thing we didn't call 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. Good thing we're running late today.
We were about 5 minutes late, dude. So.
Perfect. So, well, I didn't actually get to line up for folks who don't know what TLO is. I know I was talking to Nestor about it before the show, and he told me that, direct quote, you're probably his favorite grower, and he's too humble to hop on the mic. But I know TLO was the first time that I saw in any of the major cannabis magazines organics coming back as a topic, coming back as a consistent topic, being shown that the yields don't have to be inferior to, synthetic methods, and showing that the quality's, there and better.
Much better. Anyone who knows. And really, when you say organics, okay, there's a difference between TLO and even most organic methods, because it really comes down to a difference between force-feeding your plants or not force-feeding your plants, because TLO is just all natural. All I've done with TLO is brought what any good all-natural outdoor grower experiences, but I brought it indoors. It's just a little different. You just have to tweak a couple things out to get it to work. And on the upside, indoors, since your roots are kept at such a higher temperature than they would be outdoors, insulated by the earth, you can accelerate the processes that are natural and get them to become what I call supernatural, and that is literal. It's not just a catchphrase. It's supernatural activity, and that's where your yields come up and everything. I can yield equal to hydro nowadays. It took me a couple years, but I figured it out and got it.
So I think you put it really well. It's the difference between force feeding your plants and allowing them what to take. In the article I wrote on Living Soil, I used the term one's like an IV bag of just like protein and carbohydrates and the stuff you need to stay alive, and that's something from a bottle. And the other one is like really letting a full balanced diet of everything you need that interacts with the whole system get into your body.
Right, and it probably includes a lot of things that nobody knows about that the plant probably needs too. And the problem with force feeding with synthetics is that you also get all that synthetic crap that takes the nutrients in with it, so it's in your plants. And anyone who just takes a little short look at what synthetic fertilizers use, they are really heavy-duty salts that absorb instantly into organic matter. That's why they're so good at force-feeding the plants. But they don't leave. You don't flush these salts out. The plants can't get rid of these easily at all, so you're going to smoke that crap. Now, with organics, the force-feeding that's done with, let's say, like earth juice or something, where they use really high levels of citric acids or humic acids or fulvic acids, these are all organic acids, and they're all fine. It's not like you're going to worry about a bunch of that in your plant, and your plant can also get rid of those too. The problem with that is you're deciding what to put in your plant and when, and the plant doesn't really get that. That's not what the plant's used to. So it's always going to be experiencing a little bit of stress in that situation, or confusion, if you will. I mean, I know they don't have a brain, but you can completely tell the difference between a truly all-natural grown plant and anything else. Just on site.
Adam, what do you think on that one?
Well, I mean, it's funny. When I love to test people on that too. Sometimes, when you get somebody who you'll have a total hydro plant and you'll give it to somebody, and you'll tell them it's just, or either tell them it's soil or tell them to pick it out, and it's kind of hard. I mean, for the masses, they really can't tell the difference a lot of times. That's the unfortunate part of it all, and that's the part that it's hard to get people to understand how much better it is when it is organic. You know what I mean? Because then the other way around, you'll finally, that's also a good litmus test to see what level people are at. But for the most part,
right.
I think, because on hydro and stuff, you will get people who don't clean their system out, run it to death. You know what I mean? I'll be like, really? Check out their levels. They're off the chart. They'll still pull something out, but it's all about nobody ever sees it on the plant. They only see it after it's all done, And
right.
It's pretty easy to hide your mistakes and stuff, So I think if you're a truly organic... Yeah. I was gonna say,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you're a truly organic grower, then you kind of... it's just all about pre-planning everything. That's the part that people don't want to do. They just want to have it done like now, So,
and that's one thing that I think the Rev, that's part of the huge value you've brought with your pieces. where you kind of like let people know the burn rates of different nutrients, because that's what it is in the soil mix. Pre-planting in a big way. It comes down to everything's pre-planting because nature takes time, and you're sort of just laying down the foundation for nature to take its course, right? But
yeah,
amen, amigo.
and I think the big, but knowing how long each part of nature takes, it confuses a lot of people.
Yeah, like a lot of times people don't realize that phosphorus things take so long to break down that if you don't put it in early enough, it ain't going to even work. It's going to be after the fact. So it's going to just start to be released when you're harvesting. And that's exactly what you don't want to have happen.
And then there's Rev.
I was just thinking about that very thing this morning. That's so funny you said that, because it really is. It really comes down to that thinking ahead. And when you're growing indoors, especially when everything is speeded up, you can think about 2 weeks ahead, and you're good. As long as you stay about 2 weeks ahead, you're fine. You're proactive rather than reactive. That you're exactly right.
Yeah. No, and that is I think, and it becomes easier too once you understand it, because being proactive is always easier than being reactive. I mean, if you don't change your if you don't change your oil on your car, it's not any easier when you have to get the whole thing redone. You know what I mean? It always becomes a problem down the road. So I think if people think ahead like that, it's just because the cycles are quicker than people realize. Everyone thinks it's long, but it's actually really short. Like the faster things go, you don't have time to do anything at a certain point. So if you if you how big of what are you doing for like indoor pots? Are you going big, like 20-gallon or?
Right now, I'm running my own personal garden. I mostly make seeds. I'm not growing any mass quantities or anything. I have a couple rooms dedicated to it. Mm-hmm. I have a few tents in those rooms, and I do different things in there. I use, sometimes I use 5 gallons, sometimes I use 3 gallon. It really depends on what I'm running. I run a lot of sativas and sativa hybrids. Those tend to go, I run some that flower for 16 weeks.
Right.
So on those plants, I tend to use larger pots, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, no, because again, it comes down to like knowing your plants and knowing how long they take and what they're going to need for rooting area.
And that's the pre-planning for things that are running that long. Yeah. That's totally different than how you're going to plan for 49-day cash crop.
Sure, and then
it is.
Yeah, and also the final. If you're
and then you need.
If you're
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, I was going to say, if you're smoking your own product too, that makes a huge difference in the end of the day also. I mean, a lot of people, if they're commercial growers, they don't care. Like when I lived in Holland for years, just to see the amount of cannabis people grew, and then none of them even smoked their own weed. They would just buy hash, you know what I mean? I was like, really? So you guys have like 250 lights going, and you don't even smoke a gram of that weed? You sell that, take the money from that, and buy Moroccan hash. That's the mentality of the growers there. So it's a bit different.
Well, yeah, that's a totally different approach there. I mean, I get that. That used to be me. I was that guy before, and I'm not that guy anymore. But if you have even somebody who's not very experienced with smoking weed or growing weed, I've taken so many people and just given them some TLO grown weed and said, here, give them like a quarter ounce or something. And they always come back to me and go, hey, please teach me how to grow it like this. I'm so sick of that. And then they know the difference. But until that point, it's just the standard crap on the street they're used to, and there's better crap and then harsher crap, and there's no real true, unless you got a good outdoor all natural or indoor organic all natural grower you can tap.
No, you're definitely right. And that, one of my favorite things about organics as a grower, and when I say organics, I do want to say, Rev, you're absolutely right. If it's not living soil, it wouldn't pass like OTCO organic. I don't consider that organic.
If the soil isn't alive, it's not working.
Yeah, because if the soil's not alive, then you must be feeding it something from a bottle. Otherwise, the plant wouldn't be alive. If you're growing that way. But one of my favorite things about it is, all the complications with trying to flush out those salts. And my favorite thing that I don't have to do anymore is I don't have to pH anymore. Nature is so much wiser and better at growing plants than we are. And when you can kind of get out of nature's way and let her do it, she just kind of takes care of everything as long as you keep her provided for.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time, you don't really need a pH meter. You don't really need to worry about any of that stuff. However, anytime, especially indoors, if you're just learning the process, those are very helpful tools to have to help you troubleshoot so you don't have to guess what's wrong. You could see something. Like when I first wondered, like, let's say the liquid fish fertilizer, which was organic, I first wondered, why the hell is this taking my pH down so hard? I did a little research into it. Oh, they add sulfuric acid to it, not to benefit anything, but to increase shelf life. Yeah. So I'm pouring sulfuric acid into my plants with all my microlife, and I guarantee you they don't like that. So I huck the fish fertilizer, and now I use dry fish,
Mm-hmm. And, that's when you talk about some of those ocean amendments, they're so great to use. I found when you're doing the way I was doing things was mostly plant-based amendments, but then you got to add in the ocean stuff because they have those rare minerals that really are only found in the ocean. They're based on ocean stuff, eating ocean stuff.
Well, and also
unique stuff.
If you take into consideration too that wherever we are was ocean mostly too, so that a lot of plants are benefiting from this already. It's not impossible for a plant in the mountain to benefit from ocean minerals because they're
plants definitely evolved to exploit that.
Right. So just by being in those places that probably were heavy fish life or whatever, coral reefs and things back in the day that now have broken down. So it's interesting to see that side of it all too, for sure.
And I've recently I use a whole bunch of stuff. I use a lot of kelp meal, a lot of oyster shells. Mm-hmm. I even use shrimp meal now. And the fish product I have is just dried fish. It says on the label, derived from 16 pounds of whole fish. Now, I don't love anything more than I love those kind of labels. Without anything, I don't have to analyze where the hell did this come from,
Sure. Yeah. The only thing I love more than that is making it myself from the supermarket, which that's my other favorite thing about organics.
Yeah, I do a lot of that through the worm farm. God, we recycle, not to mention all the extraneous plant matter, but we recycle all our kitchen scraps and any plants around here that die or something, like a tomato plant when it's done. I do that. And you don't need a worm farm to do that, really. You can just do that when you recycle your soil. I just recently got a tumbler, a compost tumbler.
Yeah.
You put that sucker in the sun, you put some root balls in there, throw in some plants and whatever else you want that's organic. You keep that spinning around for a couple of weeks, you open it up, oh my God, it's the blackest, most awesome soil ever.
Yeah. Right. And it's awesome when you know what you put into it all the time too, because that's for me, every time I use our compost at home and just the scraps of the food going in, I'm always thinking how good that.
Yeah, I know I bought the best.
Bam! I got exactly all the coffee that goes in there and all that stuff. You're like,
right.
I know I'd be happy if
dude. I don't know if this is weird, but I actually added to my and I've been using the same tumbler since actually Nestor helped guided me into making my tumbler 5-6 years. No, probably 4 or 5 years ago. But some pets that have died, their ashes have been added to my tumbler.
Yummy.
That's like two snake and two spiders, actually. So.
Wow.
So yeah. We come, when we give our dogs a haircut, when we get haircuts, we always throw our hair. We recycle that because we don't put any Advantage or any of that hideous flea shit on them, so they're not toxic. So we recycle pretty much everything. Fish die in my aquarium. I recycle them.
So you're doing animals too. That's it. So one thing that I want to ask, if we're talking about compost, and we have Nestor here, he knows a bit about compost too. Can you compost you can't compost like chicken, right? You can't compost meat, right?
Shouldn't, right?
Sure you can. You just need a much higher temperature.
Right. But I mean in a small, a 50-gallon, or you have a 50-gallon drum tumbler.
They actually make composters I've seen that where you can compost your dog crap, cat crap, whatever you want. Meat, it doesn't matter, and the big difference is those things really come up to temperature,
they heat up
to what would be called hot compost.
Yeah. So I've seen the other thing I've seen for that is these black soldier flies, which sound pretty gross, but apparently they never get wings or can't fly out of their container or whatever. But a guy I know who's like a aquaponics food farmer, he had thrown a half a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken in there, and this thing went through everything, and it turned it all into castings in one night.
Oh yeah, God, I love those crazy bugs, man. I got some in my worm farm. They're just ravenous, man. They've decided that they like the woody stems of the leftover cannabis matter, so I leave them for them, and they just take them down. It takes them I look in about 48 hours later, and I cannot see any stems anymore.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, definitely nice to let nature do its work there, huh?
I mean, it's just, and then you're saving money going to the grocery, and then when it comes down to organic, and we're talking about like the true philosophers behind organic farming, the idea was never to produce a better quality or a better yield. It was to do something that was better for the earth, that we could keep doing forever.
Sure.
And that's
sustainability.
And
exactly.
And we're part of the earth, so it's better for us.
And I mean, the idea of that's that feeling when you go to the grocery store and you get like the local, or even better when Rev, like what you were talking about, like the plant you grew in your own backyard. So you didn't even use gas to get there to buy this plant, and you grew it in your own backyard, and then you're making fertilizer out of that.
Oh yeah.
It's just closing all those open loops is really what organics is about to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing once you see it. And on the cost, I wanted to say something too. It's back when I used to be a cropper, when I was synthetic, we would do cost analysis not over a month, not over per harvest, but we would do it over for the course of a year. So we would see how much we would harvest, what wattage, lights, blah, 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 and we would use all that for data. Now with organics, it's the same, because I've had people come back to me and say, oh my God, I have to spend $5,000 on stuff. No, you don't. I just ran down all the stuff that is there's much more too. I only touched the surface, but all you really have to do to get a taste of it, get yourself some bagged soil, some good organic soil, get yourself the same size bag of earthworm casting, get yourself some perlite, mix those things together, get a large pot, and just use good water. You're not going to yield huge, but you're going to get a product that is going to blow your mind. And you can set it right inside. If you're a container grower, you can set it right inside with the other plants and get a taste of it. Because rather than me trying to say, you must do this, you must try it, it's real easy to just try it yourself, and then you see what you think.
Absolutely, and I think
it's not a small difference. It's a huge difference.
It is. It's a whole different quality of plant, and we do want to thank you for being on. We have to move on and give a little shout out here, but Rev, thanks so much. Can you tell us where people can get in touch with you, find out a little more about the TLO method?
Well, I'm the cultivation editor for Skunk Magazine, so I've almost been, I think I've been there 7 or 8 years now, and so you can find TLO articles, every issue there. Green Candy Press, my book, True Living Organics, I'm in the middle of revising it right now, so we're updating everything, so I should be done with that by this year, I think, so that'll be good. But otherwise on Facebook, I'm the Rev Revsky. I pretty much let anybody be my friend if they want it, as long as they're not idiots.
Well, we want to, again, thank you for being on, Rev, and we'd love to have you back if that's possible. We'd love to talk more about, I've seen some of your great articles about sort of heirloom genetics and the good old days in the NorCal scene, so maybe we'll be in touch about one of those episodes a little later on down the line.
That would be my pleasure to do that. It was great being on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Adios.
Thanks a lot, Rev.
Thank you, man.
So that was the Rev of Skunk Magazine, True Living Organics, and I think what he broke down there, everyone in here was nodding that if you want to get started, get a bag of some good soil, get a bag of some good castings, a bag of good perlite, mix it up. It'll get you through. It's not going to boost you in bloom, but you will see the flavors will come out a lot clearer almost, right? Like I would call it less fuzzy, less muddled. Everything's more distinct in the flavor and the aroma. And it's easy to do, and the best place to do that sort of thing, obviously, Way to Grow, our good buddies, and we're talking about growing outdoors a lot, but you can also talk about growing indoors organically, and that's I think what a lot of these people have in common that we have on today. We're doing organic soil, outdoor methods with the same ethos and the same techniques and the same ingredients even, and figuring out how to bring it indoor, because like we always talk about, growing cannabis is like the least efficient industry for all of us who are like green and like into the earth and saving, like we're burning lights and
yeah, we're
burning a lot of dinosaur blood. Bones.
Exactly. And on top of that, I mean, you think about all the HVAC and in the summertime, in Colorado, it's sunny every day, and you go inside this room, and then it's like it tones down a little bit. It's still bright, but it's not nearly as bright as it was outside. And then you go inside this place, and you're like, just a big machine running, and it's like, if you just took the roof off this place, you'd be all set.
If you just change out all the glass,
you'd just be killing it right now.
So we're gonna get Kyle Kushman on the line here, presuming Adam wrote down the right phone number.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at not doing that.
Yeah, it's okay. There's sometimes it's ringing. I hope it's him.
I sent him a message.
All right, you talk to him so you can.
Okay.
Hello, you've reached Climate Consulting. Unfortunately.
Oh no, Bergen. So I don't know if you want to.
I sent him a message already, so we'll see. He'll probably pop.
All right, excellent. So, well, then we can do the professional thing here and line him up. So, Kyle Kushman, grower for Buds and Roses Collective in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, and
how many cups has he won?
Didn't do my homework on that one.
Me either. Don't worry. That's why I'm asking. But
we'll get it. Seem to
but
do
like a bunch.
Oh yeah, they're doing really well, and also people I know in other cups are winning
with his method.
Exactly. Like these guys in Rhode Island, I think, like at that one, they got second place, I believe. It was definitely some bomb for sure. And they have their guy over there, and he's 100%, on board with their methods.
And that's the veganic method, yes?
Yes, this is completely veganic.
So I definitely want to learn more about the method because we were just talking about, like fish and stuff is good usually, I think.
I think so too. I mean, it's one of those, it's hard to say because technically, obviously I like to eat really organic and lots of vegetables.
But you do eat fish, you're not a vegan.
I eat fish, exactly. So I'm kind of like think of myself as a plant style person.
But like, do you do bone meal in your soil mixes?
Yeah, I mean, I have done. I'm not heavy on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I believe oyster shell is superior. Does he think that we're talking on your cell phone?
No, but he's calling me now, so let me give him a quick second.
Yeah. All right. Adam's gonna try
to.
Oh, he's gonna be on the line on the air.
Yep. Someone call. It's all right. We're gonna call you back on the house line here.
Oh, we confirmed Kyle Kushman.
Right, call you back. Bye.
Sweet. So we'll have Kyle Kushman any second here. So yeah, I mean, I know like a lot of the things I use from my garden are plants. It's not even plant based, but like straight up plants. Ground up plants go in the soil when recycling, so it works. So talk a little more.
Hello there, Kyle. This is Adam from the Adam Dunn Show with Mitch. How you doing?
Great, man. How are you? Are we on?
We are on live.
We're live on the air.
We are on live.
You are all over the world right
now.
Rock and roll. So we were just kind of giving you a little intro on Veganics.
I think he knows how many cups have you won?
That's the first question.
What's that?
How many cups have you won?
I heard two people. How many cups have I won? Well, in the last 2 years, we've got about 19 awards total for Buds and Roses LA.
Right.
And that includes 2 back-to-back cups for best flowers at the Seattle and Denver Cups last year.
Nice.
For the strawberry cough, Veganic strawberry cough, and the Veganic Girl Scout cookies. And then somewhere in there's about 11 second and third place wins over the last 2 years as well.
Awesome.
Right on. I did have a question about the strawberry cough. This is because this is Mitch talking, by the way. Good to talk to you, Kyle.
Hi, Mitch.
So I believe it's the same cut. This is something I always want to know. I got the cut from Mr. Danko, Danny, and is that the same cut as the Kyle Kushman strawberry cough? I've never been sure all these years.
Absolutely 100% sure. One of the first people that ever grew the strawberry cough before I ever grew it, well, the story is that an amateur breeder in Bridgeport, Connecticut, this was a first-time cross. He was growing the strawberry fields and the haze, and he decided to make a cross. And that became the strawberry cough. And he gifted me a clone back in 1991, maybe. And basically, I took the clone back to New York City with me. I wasn't cultivating, and I gave it to a very good friend who I used to give a lot of the products that I tried out for write-ups and high times. And within 2 years, it was the #1 delivery service weed in New York City.
And I can see why, man. You know, hazy buds do well in New York.
I moved from New York to LA, and I filled my trunk with 100 clones, disguised it really well, and I drove across the country, and I gave out strawberry cough clones in every city I stopped in along the way.
So you were the Johnny Appleseed of strawberry cough.
And that's why everybody thinks I created it.
Well, you propagated it. It's
Yeah,
Johnny
it's part of
Appleweed.
it's part of the delivering it to the masses. You know what I mean? It's just like. Not everybody made the acid, but I'm sure somebody gave it to everybody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
it's a piece of the puzzle, man. It's much like soil. It's part of the ecosystem you got going on.
For sure.
Cannabis. So let's segue back. So we were talking before we hopped on. I think what makes you we have a lot of master organic growers on this show. We're blessed to have them, including yourself. And what makes you unique is you are, I think, the only one who grows it veganically. And we were just talking to the Rev, and he was mentioning that he uses fish products. I was mentioning that I use ocean products and bone meal. Adam uses fish products. And so I guess my first question is, what inspired you to ditch all animal products in your garden? And is veganic
question.
totally animal free?
Did you have something else you wanted to ask?
Yeah, and do you use any animal products? I mean, I assume from the name that it's totally vegan. I don't know if you use earthworm castings. I don't know how vegan veganic is.
Okay, well, the definition for veganic, if you look it up online, through several sources, there are a few different definitions. One of them is actually extremely a looser definition, and it's closer to a biodynamic definition, which involves using animal products that are grown on your property.
So they're all like super locally sourced.
You know what they're eating. That the land is organic and things like that. For me, I go by the definition that anything with a stomach is off limits for me, and that's because what comes out the back end is a waste product. Now, when it comes to worms don't have stomachs. Worms are a filter. And everything that comes out the back end of a worm is actually cleaner than what comes in. So worm castings are an excellent source of nutrition. They just can't be, you have to source them. They have to be very carefully sourced so that you know what they ate.
Sure.
And now, like when it comes to other animal waste, and obviously we're not talking about dog poo, but like steer manure, guano. I mean, right. I think the key to those things from a soil science perspective, and obviously we know Veganics work, so it's not necessary. But I'm going to big up some soil science books here on camera, just so people know it's legit. But the key from a soil science perspective, I feel like, is you have to compost it first. And when you compost it, that destroys a lot of the bad, well, not destroys, but converts a lot of the potentially harmful stuff. And like in biodynamic farming, the manure is composted, I think, 30 days or 60 days, and it converts it to a very different substance.
Sure. Well, there's another issue other than the actual possibility of pathogen contamination. There is actually another reason why Veganics is a better way to grow than organics. And I liken it like this. Thanksgiving dinner and sushi dinner are both really good. Well, first let me just say I'm not a vegan myself. Uh-huh. And that's not why I chose to go this route.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
Basically my inspiration was I discovered Veganics in about 2005, something like that. And I had never seen healthier plants in my life. My leaf angles went from 50 degrees, 55 degrees to 70 degrees, 75 degrees.
And when you're talking about leaf angles, you're talking about like what we call praying leaves,
praying up, like
where they're like pointing up.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and I was really, really impressed by that. And then at the end of the cycle, when I got to taste the produce, I was amazed by how smooth it was. And, again, everybody, when you grow your own stuff, you're a little bit biased. And it wasn't until I really started sharing it, and I got the same comment from everybody that tried it, that it was the smoothest possible, the smoothest smoke that they had ever tried. And I liken it like this. the plants have a much easier time assimilating the nutrition because, like, Thanksgiving dinner and sushi are both really good for you. But after you eat Thanksgiving dinner, you have to sit down. Your body has to make all these digestive enzymes, and it's work. But when you go out and you eat sushi, no matter how much you gorge yourself on that sushi, 15 minutes later, you've got energy and you're up and running around. It's because the nutrition is much more easily metabolized by your body. And it's the same way with plants and veganic nutrition as opposed to organic nutrition. It's a heavier diet. Veganics is a lighter diet, and the plants take it in much easier. They do less work. You're not relying on any decomposition. You're not relying on any breakdown. The nutrition is nearly 100% bioavailable.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, sort of the contrast, by contrast, it illustrates a point that in a system like the Revs or in Clackamas Coots, who we're going to be talking to in a little bit here, it's so important to keep your soil very alive and healthy, so it is involved in breaking stuff down, and the soil bacteria and the soil life are producing those enzymes and being sure that you have this. It's sort of like taking kombucha or any of the weird fermented stuff I eat all the time to keep human digestion rocking.
Correct.
So we got about a minute left, and first of all, we definitely want to thank you for being on the show today, and we'd love to be able to talk to you again in the future if that's all right. We're sort of doing a survey course today.
Thanks for having me. I'm always here. Phone call away.
So we did have one listener question. Kind of that's where we're getting the inspiration here. So you have a product, correct? I want to give you a chance to plug.
We just launched Vegamatrix in March. And we are being distributed by Grow Life. It's available on grenners.com. And you can go to vegamatrix.net. We have a store locator. And it's really taken off. The results are starting to come in. There's side-by-side comparison pictures on both Instagram and on Facebook. And people are running it against Canna. They're running it against Fox Farm. They're running it against Geo.
Nice.
And everybody's just raving.
We did have one question about the Vegamatrix, and that was the listener question. I just want to make sure. It says that it's 95% natural ingredients. What's the other 5%? Is it just
Well, I got to tell you, I used the Cannabio line for a couple of years. That was my introduction to Veganics, and I realized that I had to heavily augment it to get a really high yield situation going. And that was my inspiration for creating Vegamatrix. So when I created Vegamatrix, I hesitated from going 100% in any one direction. So what me and my organic chemists came up with was we made it 95%. Basically, the product is 100% organic. We're actually in registration for our FDA approval right now. It contains roughly 3% mined minerals and roughly 2% synthetics. And the synthetics that we use are also qualified under organic food production.
Gotcha.
But by allowing the small amounts of synthetics and mined minerals, I've given the nutrient system a lot of power. And it works really, really well.
So it's almost like eating an organic vegan diet and then taking some vitamins to round out the nutrition.
I like that. I'll buy that. That sounds good.
There you go.
Sounds good. So, Kyle, before we let you go, let people know how they can be in touch with you and find out more.
Well, please, I encourage you to go to kylekushman.com. We have a free growers forum there that's growing very rapidly. You can start your own threads, post your own pictures, get responses to your questions about veganic gardening or organic gardening. We have experts online, including myself. And please check out my Facebook page and also vegamatrix.net.
Right on. Thanks so much for being on, and we will speak to you soon, hopefully.
Thanks, Kyle.
I thank you guys. You guys have a great day.
You too, man.
Take care, man.
Peace.
Right on. Well,
there you go, Kyle Cushman.
Kyle Cushman. So you might have some trouble picking up products from Grow Life right now. I heard they're going through some trouble.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that, actually.
So if you can't get to Grow Life, check out Way to Grow. I don't know if they have Vegamatrix there, but maybe we could put Kyle in touch with Corey.
We definitely could.
And, all the stuff we're talking about, bone meal, blood meal, I think one of the things with organics is a lot of people think some of this stuff's really, where the hell am I going to get neem seed or karanja meal? And like, way to grow. They have it in compostable boxes, and it's like way cheaper than anything in the bottles.
Yeah.
And they do have how many locations, dude?
6.
Jesus Christ. And you know them better than me.
Boulder, Fort Collins, Lakewood, Denver, Colorado Springs, and Central Denver. The Central Denver is the biggest, newest one. That's 1051 South Platte River, 20,000 square foot. Filling up every day, more stuff. Actually, right now they're getting rid of the EPAPs. Not getting rid of, but they're just going to move them out and get new ones, I guess. And these are $400 each.
And that's for the Thowies, I think.
Oh yeah, 1,000 watt EPAPs, because the other ones are the DPAPs, so the
Dude.
smaller ones.
Can you run an EPAP in a tent, or is that like maybe a little too hot?
Just a good HVAC.
Put an AC in there.
You could.
But yeah. Cool. And then let's shout out Incredible.
Incredibles, best edibles in Denver and all over Colorado and
In
the
the
universe.
universe.
There you go, universe. But anyway, they have 12 flavors right now, more on the way. Awesome new gummies they got now, and maccabi bars and all sorts of good flavors. We know that Chris's favorite is everything, and we know that Bike probably has everything on his list too, I would say.
Yeah, Bike, what is your favorite? I got a fireberry in my fridge that I'm like scared to eat with an infant. Not eat with an infant, not like share it with an infant, but like I feel like it would be irresponsible for me to eat fireberry at this time.
The last time I had one, honestly, was 4th of July last year. I got the 3-pack.
Boom.
See,
Bike had the
I knew it was a multi.
I just, you know what? I
got the spark.
judged an edibles contest last year, the Rooster, and it just
They had the
turned,
Pop Rocks in those last year, right? They were pretty awesome.
I don't know if I got the Pop Rocks.
Oh, that was.
Oh yes, in the candy bar. Yes,
Yep.
okay, yes.
Yes.
And that I just got so burnt out on edibles last year.
That was
judging that I just haven't eaten too many.
It's funny how edibles come in waves like that. Like, you'll go through a stage
for
where
sure.
you're just like, yeah, and then it just something clicks in your mind, and you're like, I can't even smell one thing with it in there, because especially if you make them yourself, that's when you go nuts because the whole house reeks, you know what I mean? And then at first you're loving it.
It's in everything.
And then at a certain point you're like,
the fucking soap in the shower smells like pot. Yeah. So I was gonna do a Build a Soil commercial, but we're gonna call Jeremy from Build a Soil right now because he's gonna link us up with Clackamas Coot.
Okay, sounds good.
Dude, talk about a sponsor. Like, big ups to Jeremy for making this possible, not in like just the normal sponsorship sense, but
Right.
in the like actually reaching out and like having Coot on 3-way to make this happen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So let's try Jeremy. Hopefully he's listening.
Hello, this is Jeremy.
Jeremy, what's going on, bud? It's Mitch. You're on the Adam Dunn Show, and you're here
Welcome.
with Adam.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome.
Well,
Right on. We've got Clackamas Coots on the line as well.
Even better.
oh, we can. Coot, is that you? I can barely hear you. Can you?
I'm going to have to see if I can merge the call here. Hold on one second.
Oh, cool. I can hear you a little better. So let me line this one up because this is like really exciting for me. I've never heard Clackamas Coot's voice before. This dude has taught me more what I consider master gardener level knowledge and inspired me more to look into, academic papers on growing and Google crazy patents and just learn crazy shit about how soil works
All right.
and how plants
I
work.
just merged this together.
Nice.
Merged.
Okay.
Oh, right on.
Sounds good.
So, Coot, I was just lining you up, and man, like I've never really been starstruck doing interviews on this show, but I have to say, I mean, on that old IC Mag Recycled Organic Living Soil Forum, I've learned more from you than literally anyone else about growing, and I'm humbled and honored to have you on the air, man.
Thank you for the kind words, and I wanted to congratulate you and your family on the new baby.
Oh,
It's
thanks,
a wonderful thing to
Wow.
have, in your life. Thank you.
Thanks, man. It's truly a whole different life, like a whole new spectrum's opened up.
Yeah.
So let's
Big
talk.
responsibility.
Let's talk. I guess what we've talked so far to the Rev, and we've talked to Kyle Cushman, and we've gotten from them a view that's kind of like a very intuitive view of growing. And what inspired me when I started reading your stuff and interacting with you is that you took that intuitive stuff and you looked at the science and called bullshit where it was bullshit and really broke things down and explained why things happen. And that's
Right.
Can you tell us anything about your background, man?
Well, I owned a small nursery. Oregon is the second largest producer of nursery stock behind California, and the third is Florida. And like most of the industry, unfortunately, is the products that you find at Home Depot or Lowe's during the spring. People want to redo their landscape, make it more curb appeal. I went the direction of specialized plants, specifically Japanese lace maples, which certain varieties can, they're just through the roof. The challenge with those kinds of plants is that they have to sit in a field for 3 or 4 years to get to market size, whatever the contract calls for. So that was kind of nice because, you set it up and it's kind of runs itself. And then we had a place down in the valley where the nursery was that we did what I guess used to be called truck crops. Now I guess it's market stuff you get like at the produce or farmers markets in your neighborhood.
Okay.
In your community. So it's not growing 50 acres of barley and 2 acres of tomatoes. It's manageable. Like tomatoes, you might have 400 square feet and rows devoted to that because everyone buys tomatoes at the farmers market. Not so much radicchio or something really. Kind of, I'm not obscure, but it's not in everyone buys tomatoes. So.
Right. It's a more common product. So,
yeah.
Were you growing organic?
I've been a member of Oregon. I'm sorry.
Were you growing organic all through that time?
Yes, and then I was a member of our farm was Otco Oregon Till Certified Organic, and then I was also a member of the OAN or. Today it means Oregon Association of Nurseries. In those days, it was Oregon Association of Nurserymen, and then they elected a woman as president of the group. So they kind of did a name shuffle,
So let's pause and tell people about OTCO, and that was you were one of the first people that really was made me curious about the difference in the standards, and it's like to get like an OMRI organic, you just kind of like apply and they put you on. You're OMRI listed. You're never OMRI certified, right? That's OMRI.
Correct. Right. OMRI cannot certify anything. They're a listing agency, and if a person would go to their website and read their mission statement and about and the history, it's all self-explanatory. And I don't want to bore you with how it evolved, but basically where we're at today is that you have at the national level the USDA NOP, National Organic Program. And they have, that's the minimum standards, really. Because the USDA is heavily influenced by politics, and
I've seen, for example, USDA like the use of Avid, which is like a really popular miticide for cannabis growing in non-organic circles. But I've recently, and the active ingredient in that, I've read the MSDS, and it's approved for organic, USDA approved for organic greenhouse tomatoes, and I know it's not OTCO approved. OTCO is like. Dr. Bronner's is like the only OTCO product I know.
Right. Under the USDA NOP office, it is, I think they're up to about 11 now. There's 11 agencies, and most of them are older than USDA NOP, that are allowed to certify, and they set their own standards. So with a USDA standard, you cannot lessen it. You can increase or restrict the use of it, but you can't. Let me give you an example. Under USDA, it's okay to use sodium bicarbonate, both as a fungicide, which goes back to the 1920s, as well as using it to adjust pH or something in soils.
That's baking soda, right?
Baking soda.
Okay.
Or you use potassium bicarbonate.
Right.
But under Oregon Till, you can only use it as a fungicide, not as an adjustment for pH. That's one example. So, and then Demeter, which is based on Rudolf Steiner's writings in the 20s, that's your biodynamic certification agency.
So Biodynamics,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like that's like Botanic Air is like a biodynamic.
Are they
I think,
biodynamic?
Yeah, they're considered biodynamic.
So, Coot, what do you think about biodynamic anything? I mean, I don't know. I know biodynamics is not necessarily
kind of a word. It's a good word. Sounds good.
It sounds great, but biodynamic is like a specific system, right? Like Steiner, one man, one cow, that whole thing, right?
Right. And then with the way that the philosophy behind biodynamics is that a farm is a small ecosystem. And so in that regard, I think that there's a lot of wonderful things to emulate and apply to our own without going full board. Now, is burying 10 grams of yarrow flower in a steer's horn and burying it at midnight under a full moon, is that going to change the dynamic of the soil? So those are philosophical questions. You know, I don't even want to address those because it's almost like arguing religion.
I have heard one BD guy, and this might be if we do end up with Microbe Man on the line, it would be cool to ask him, because I had one BD guy who was had some soil science background, soil biology background, and he said that all that stuff sounds really spooky mooky, but actually it has to do with like the activity levels of the specific soil life at that time and how they would distribute all the goodness in the horn and how that chemically would interact with. I don't know. He didn't explain it. He just said it.
Yeah, I know. And again, I wouldn't criticize somebody's spiritual beliefs, and biodynamics has a lot of wonderful things. There's a lot of value in the big picture. Maybe it's the details that I don't find. It's not that I find them troubling. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
You know.
So speaking of things you do get, and that's kind of why we wanted to have you on the show so desperately. You seem to get why things are happening a lot more. And you know, when we were talking to Kyle, and we were talking to the specifically with Kyle with the veganic thing, and I don't know if you heard, he did tell us what the 5% was. That it was mined minerals, and then I don't know what the 2% synthetics are, but 2% synthetics. And sort of why he explained the philosophy behind veganic was that it was a lighter diet for the plants, and so the plants didn't have that much to digest. And one of the things that you've really championed and explained how it works is the mechanics of how the soil really digests stuff for the plants.
Right, and I guess where I differ from the other two gentlemen is that I put all of my energy on the front end. First, I make the best compost that I can using organic barley straw, and then amending that heavily at the beginning of the cycle with the salt, rock dust. And when we drop down into the mesophilic cycle, that's where your fungi colonies get, that's when I add kelp meal, neem meal, and organic fish meal. Mm-hmm. So when I get done with that compost, it's excellent, but then I'm going to take that and I'm going to run it through the worm bins and create vermicompost. By doing that, when I get done, my material is already loaded with the correct amounts of rock dust. They contain all the PGRs and plant growth hormones, the secondary metabolites, enzymes, from those quality, like the neem meal and the, the kelp meal. Kelp meal is at the center, and I invite anyone who wants to really learn organics to read Seaweed and Plant Growth by Dr. T.L. Senn, S-E-N-N, who spent 55 years studying both kelp meal as well as seaweed extracts. And he's still professor emeritus at Clemson University, there's a 25-acre park named in his honor for the contributions he made to agriculture and especially horticulture.
So do you use
kelp and seaweed extracts?
Do you use alfalfa? Like I know when I was in the group, and you know I can't remember who said what, but that's when I really got turned on to using alfalfa, yarrow,
absolutely,
comfrey.
Yep.
And what stage would those go in? Would that be in the soil mix or in that composting? So you pretty much compost everything up front, and then that just gets mixed with your peat and your aeration amendment, and you're good to go?
And a little bit more rock dust, yeah. But even the only amendments I add when I mix the final soil, and it's only a half cup of each, of crab meal for the calcium carbonate, and then the chitin content, and then a half cup of neem, and a half cup of kelp. and that's it. And then what I do use alfalfa for is making a tea. Just bubble it out for like a day or so, and then apply it. And then I take the muck that's left over, and I put it in my worm bins.
Right.
I mean, everything gets used, but I just use it in different ways.
Right.
You know, but I live and die by enzyme teas, which I'm using malted grains.
So you turn me on to the enzyme teas, you turn me on to the coconut water, and you turn me on to the aloe vera. And those are the probably the 3 tips I put out more than anyone else. And people are like, whoa, I never heard that. Dude, it works so well. Can you explain how those work and why those work for everyone?
And Coot, if you could mention about the malted barley as well. That was really interesting to me.
Okay. Let's do the one that I think is the most powerful and must be used, you know, go softly into that good night, and that would be coconut water. Coconut is not a nut, it's a drupa, and what you're dealing with the young, what they call in this country, young green coconuts that you find at Asian markets, is actually an embryo. It's a seed embryo, and it's loaded with water. And as the water solidifies and the seed ripens, that's what we buy when they're brown. You cut it open, you got a thick wall of coconut meat or whatever it's called, and a small amount of liquid. But as an embryo, you can imagine the enzymes and everything that was loaded into that water by the parent plant. And it's going to include, you know, saponins and salicylic acid and IBA and IAA and all the rooting compounds that we buy the synthetic forms, which aren't even approved for food. Forget organics. They're not even approved for general gardening. That's why they put a label on it, you know, but nobody reads that one. So, and then the other thing is that it's rich in are the specific plant growth regulators and hormones, auxins, cytokinins. It was discovered back in World War II that coconut water could be used as a blood replacement in combat in the South Pacific. Later, that research was picked up by Dr. James Overbeek, who figured out that coconut water in conjunction with malted barley extracts could be used to propagate orchids, which anybody that's done any work around orchids, you can see that's a pretty good challenge. And even to this day, you go to the websites, the science websites that sell these kind of materials, you're looking at purified coconut water, you're looking at purified barley extract. So what I did is I just put the two together, and, you know, malting a grain isn't exactly rocket science.
So I tried it once on your instructions. You're pretty much just like slow roasting it, right? You're sprouting it?
No.
No?
You just want to sprout.
Oh, okay. So you just sprout it, and then there's...
Yes, and then you grind it up, fury or whatever, like the thing you use to make margaritas.
Yeah.
And then add that to some water, like 5 gallons of the recipe that I kind of set up for people. And yeah, and you just apply it as a soil drench. Well, those enzymes kick in the breakdown of the materials and the strata, releasing those ions, making them available to the plant. And
the strata, that's all the stuff. So you're composting everything up front, right? So let me kind of explain for people who weren't on the Rolls Forum back in the day. So when you compost, living soil in general has what's called humus, the humic layer, and those are, Coot, jump in and tell me wherever I'm wrong here, but I learned it all from you, so hopefully I'm remembering it right. And the humic layer is almost like batteries for some of the nutrients. And so this process you're talking about, these enzymes sort of make the connection with the batteries better? Is that sort of how you might put it for laymen?
Right. I mean, the thing to remember that one of the reasons that you can't really evaluate this, I hate using these terms, but so-called nutrient profile of worm castings is that after they've gone through this process of being broken down by bacteria, the bacteria slime is then converted to castings through enzymes that are going to marry up with enzymes in from the root exudes. So you have sequestered nutrients.
So that's nutrients that aren't plant available until they get into the root zone and into that life situation. Is that
right? Right. And the other thing, the main thing with I want to just add about worm castings, what makes it so invaluable, done correctly, is that besides disease suppression, 2 years ago, Dr. Yasmin Cardoza at North Carolina State University, in her doctoral paper, proved the insect suppression benefits from using top quality worm castings. And so you see, you're creating this extremely healthy environment below the root zone that's precluding, anything in the way of gnats or, some of the stuff I read online, I can't even, what are you doing? How could you come up with that many problems,
So I think that's
I'm sorry to sound like a smart,
I think it's a great topic for us to explore because a lot of people are worried about going organic because how do you control the pests? What's up with that? One thing that you mentioned that you put in your soil mix that I always thought was great was the oyster shell, and if I'm remembering correctly, that's the sort of thing that it doesn't happen in your first cycle. It'll be you have to recycle the soil to give it enough time and enough exposure, but it releases some sort of thing that kills and repels bugs or something?
Well, yeah, there's a compound called chitin, chitin, okay? And chitin is a polysaccharide. It's a form of glucosamine. Well, chitin in and of itself doesn't do anything, but the bacterial action creates, trying to break it down, creates an enzyme called chitinase. And it's chitinase that destroys the eggshells of insects, and there's where the benefit comes in.
Nice.
One of the enzymes that you create when you sprout or malt, whatever term you want to use, a grain, or any seed really, is an enzyme called chitinase. So you're actually accelerating the availability of chitinase in the soil, plus breaking down that polysaccharide that's in. It's only in lobster, crab, and shrimp. And don't hold me to this one, but probably what they have down in Louisiana.
Those crawdad things? Yeah.
Crawdads, yeah. It's only, in other words, it's not in oyster shell, it's not in clam shells, it's not in mussel shells. It's only that group.
They're a little softer in a way, too. They have that weird rubbery quality to them.
Yeah, they're not that, like, crunchy. It's a different texture.
Yeah.
And I was reading something. Here's one thing that I think I've had a misunderstanding on. I was just rereading The Soul of Soil, which is like my go-to soil book. And I thought I got the explanation in here. It's not in here, so it must have been from you. Can you explain how pH works in a living soil and why you don't have to pH? Because I say it. Obviously, the proof is in the pudding. It works, but everyone's like, "Well, that doesn't make sense."
Oh boy. Okay, a soil that's alive has high amounts of humic acid. Okay?
Right.
And humic acid carries a negative charge. And there's the 7 big ones, cations, we'll call it ions, cations, in the soil, of which calcium is one, and hydrogen is another, and aluminum, and phosphorus, and potassium, and magnesium. Okay, and sometimes you'll see, not in a chemistry book, but in a soil biology book, you'll see calcium written as capital CA with 2 plus signs.
I'm looking at it right now. That's exactly how it says it.
Okay, so that means it has 2 exchange sites, meaning that it can hold in place 2 hydrogen ions. So if you have a soil that's very rich in quality humic value in your humus, right, that's why it works. But here's the other thing I want to say about pH testing. If you want to test your soil pH, do it. But doing a runoff is just like you would taking water from the drain in your shower, and you're going to do a water quality test. The way that you test the soil's pH is to take a small amount, mix it with purified water, drain the water off, and measure that. That's your soil pH, not the stuff coming out of the bottom, which includes some waste from the plants and from other microbe colonies. I mean, the whole thing is so disjointed in the stoner world. It's mind-boggling. How could you get this much wrong?
Well, you know,
we're professionals.
A lot of word of mouth and a lot of aversion to books that are in the science section. I think
big words, you know, that people get stopped on.
So that is like, I didn't even scratch the surface. I just, you know, there's a window to it, but it has to do with the CEC, cation exchange capacity of a soil, and how that's measured. And if you focus your research online to terms like that, you'll land on the good spots that can do a better job explaining it than me. But there's not even the Reader's Digest, there's the Reader's Digest title to answer your question. So it looks like, I'm not familiar with that book, but it looks like it's a real solid book, and you're nodding your head. I'm watching you without the speaker on, so it looks like you're seeing some of the terms that I've mentioned, and hopefully that explanation there will lead you to other, more intense information.
Yeah, this is always my little pocket go-to, and it definitely emphasizes in the pH situation. It emphasizes quality humus because that's going to have a high cation exchange capacity, and then calcium and really those. I guess it's emphasizing calcium, magnesium, and potassium.
The reason I recommend oyster shell powder is this. It's not the oyster from the happy hour. This is a material from ancient deposits at the bottom of San Francisco Bay that they've been harvesting since the 1920s, and not for soil, primarily for the poultry industry. And because of its purity, now it's in many of the calcium supplements that you find at your store. Whereas limestone is calcium carbonate, but it's usually adulterated with some other, and it depends where it comes from. But this deposit at the bottom of the bay is from oysters that were about the size of your fingernail and your little finger. And so you can go be assured that when you're using that, you have 7% calcium carbonate, which when you break it down is about 38 point something percent elemental calcium. So that's why
that's your CalMag. It's your CalMag.
That's your that's your CalMag. Yeah. A lot of people, I see people online, and this is, I think, a lot of things that this is maybe a good topic as we're moving towards opening it up to listener questions here, because we got the true professor here himself. A lot of new organic growers maybe don't time their mix right, maybe go a little light on some things, and they end up in a situation where, like, okay, I didn't plan right in the beginning, and now I have to fix it. And so people, I think, in those situations often will panic and say, well, I got to get CalMag. I'm going to have to go buy a bottle of CalMag.
Jesus. Now, here's what you need. Every organic grower should have at least 5 pounds of kelp meal in-house. And when you see something that doesn't look right, take a quarter cup. First dechlorinate your water with an air stone. Add, for 5 gallons of water, add about a quarter cup of kelp meal. Let it bubble for a day and hit your plants with it. If everyone would read Seaweed and Plant Growth by Dr. Sen, he proved 60 years ago that you could grow lush plants in a horticulture environment using nothing but kelp meal. But that doesn't play well with fertilizer companies because, why would you want to sell somebody a $58 bag of kelp meal for 50 pounds when you can get them for $150 for a jug of, something with some magical, mythical, ingredients that are going to, whatever.
Well, we agree.
I'll get off my way.
No. You're here. We built that soapbox for you to stand on here today.
Yeah,
so,
you take it back to its basics. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think
people. It's just
combination of mycorrhizals and kelp is all you really need.
Yeah, get a good source, and if you need to strengthen up and bone up your soil, I'm going to be a shill here, but bioag, humic, and fulvic acids are the gold standard. And all you have to do is go to their website and read the story of Dr. Robert Fox and the contributions he's made over the past 45 years, case closed.
You definitely turned, I think it's, you could go on Google when you first mentioned bioag on the internet, the humic and fulvic, and then the silica that you recommend, certain products, you turn a lot of us onto agricultural products. And at first it was like, oh my God, this stuff's cheap as hell. And then after like a month of that being on the internet, everybody was sold out of it nonstop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that Karanja meal, I think, I was the first one to ever mention it on a weed board, and that was like, 4 or 5 years ago. And it kind of blew me away. I had to go into a grocery store to get some my favorite containers, Smart Pots. And there was Karanja meal in a down-to-earth box. I went, give me a break.
Yeah.
I mean, Karanja meal is, even in India, because it has a unique compound that neem doesn't.
Ah, so it's like a beefed up neem, correct?
In biomedicine.
Okay.
Huh?
That's like a beefed up sort of neem, a little more.
No. Actually, the difference in the single compound has nothing to do with our interest.
Uh-huh.
It has to do, it's extracted to make birth control pills, and that's one of the widest uses of the Karanja tree in India and China is this one compound to form a nimbin.
Huh.
But, it's a lemanoid. So anyway.
So, you're talking about interesting. You end up talking a lot about terpenes, and it's funny. We talk about terpenes on this show, and we're usually talking about the terpenes that cannabis produces and that we extract, right? And that's how we think of it, right, Adam? Terpenes.
That's what we think of.
and you were the first one when we talk about organic pest control to really open my eyes to. There are terpenes in other plants that they actually make to kill bugs. And I'm starting to put together
cannabis.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to put together. So it's almost like if you focus on those varieties and
the ones that don't have pests. I mean, we have
right,
of them.
Yeah, the ones that are pest resistant. It's true.
Must have something in them.
So, all right, here's
about a year ago.
Oh, go ahead.
About a year ago at High Times Magazine, there was an article. I think April 2013. Anyway, just use terpenes as the search thing at their webpage. Anyway, he touched, or she, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but the author touched on 5 or 6 terpenes that would be a good thing to have in your flowers, right?
Right.
And what the ironic part is that each and every one of those is a pesticide.
Huh.
I mean, that was just, I had to chuckle. Linalool, well, the list goes on and on and on. But
and linalool stands out to me because that was the one that you said was the active ingredient in what was called Mighty Wash. And what's it called now, Nestor? What's the new name for Mighty Wash?
Yeah,
I think it's Ultimate Wash.
Ultimate Wash. They didn't want the word "might" in the name. That was
good idea.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty funny. I mean,
so what's in Mighty Wash actually, Coot? And also, how do you know this stuff?
Okay, here's how you determine things. And I'm sorry to be ignorant on technology, but I'm a Mac guy, so I don't use a real computer like Manlinian do, Windows and whatever. But at least in Mac, in Safari, the browser, if you type in the name of a product, and you must use a colon at the end of that text string, right? And then just type in MSDS and hit return, bingo! You'll get the MSDS as filed by the company, the manufacturer, with EPA and FDA and the rest. Now, do another one, except instead of using MSDS, do label. And the PDF links will come up, and you go in and look at them. And in some of these products, I mean, let me tell you something. This isn't exactly a secret, but the term inert ingredient in regular English means water.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at a bottle that's 0.1% Canadian butt hairs or something, it's 99% inert ingredients, basically about some water. Mm-hmm. And the sad part is that all those compounds can be purchased as extracts from reputable companies like Liberty Naturals or Mountain Rose Herbs in Eugene, Oregon,
and
certified organic.
Jeremy, can we get those from buildthesoil.com?
Oh, a Mountain Rose Herbs.
Funny story, Coot. This is actually such a Coot story. So we just had the kid, and then My wife had to use hot compresses. We brought the acupuncturist over, and there was some infection that mild infection we had to take care of. And she said, "Man, if only you guys had clean dandelion around here." And I was like, "I have dandelion root in my basement." And then my dad is
Cool.
my dad's family's from the Middle East, and he was like, "Have you ever heard of a plant called borage or borage? I don't know how it's pronounced, but my mother says that's what you use." I was like, "I got that in the basement too." Coot turned me on to that one too. And those were all from Mountain Herbs. They're great.
Yeah, there's another plant I failed to mention that's an integral part of my program. Is I grow comfrey.
Comfrey, yeah.
Comfrey is added to the worm bins. I use it as a green mulch in my raised beds for the vegetable gardens. And then I also sometimes take a fresh leaf, chop it up, and then mix it with some vermicompost and top dress the plants just to give them a, good morning, kind of like a good smoothie.
Yeah.
Or something.
And comfrey, that's like they use that in England a lot, right? For like they sell comfrey pellets. I feel like.
Oh yeah, big time. That's where it was the non-invasive sterile versions. The Bocking series was developed in Essex, England, by Dr. Hills, and his nursery was on Bocking Road. And so the original, he developed about 20, in which Bocking 14 and Bocking 4 are the ones that survive today. And so when you buy a piece of root from like Horizon Herbs or whatever, that can be traced directly back to 1950 or 1949. That's how long this specific plant has been with us, and it's spread all over the world. And but it's borage and comfrey are like almost identical cousins. The only big difference is the biomass. If you had a borage plant, let's say 5 feet tall, and you had a fully, like say 2-year-old comfrey plant. Well, first of all, you only get one cutting with a borage plant. With comfrey, you get 3 or 4 cuttings a season.
I got you.
But just in one cutting, the borage would only be maybe 10% the biomass that the comfrey is.
So way more bang for your buck with comfrey.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just, it comes back every year. I mean, nothing like you folks in Colorado experience, but we had a pretty hard winter here for Oregon,
Yeah.
And I've already done my first cutting, and this is 1st of June. I'll do another cutting at the end of July, another cutting in September. I've got 5 plants, and I don't know what I was thinking. 2 would have been overkill, so I've been trying to give it away, and,
That's another thing that you put a lot of people onto is, growing your own not even just going to the grocery store or going to the grocery store and buying this stuff, but like you're already growing plants. You can grow your fertilizer next to your plants, and that I think was one of the big influences you put into the scene.
Yeah, and anybody can grow mint, and the other reason for having mint plants around, number one, do them in a container. Trust me, voice of experience.
Yeah, they go crazy.
But you've got good access for your pesticide and fungicide, but equally important is you can practice your cloning, because if you can't clone a mint plant, you need to get a new hobby. So this will
they clone themselves.
This will let you run through some different techniques and see if Joe on IC Mag is talking gibberish or knows what he's knows what he's talking about. But and plus, mints are really cool to have in your flower room, because the aromas that they give off make them uncomfortable for the herbivores, the mites.
Hey, another thing.
But don't get me wrong,
we're going to have to definitely get to another time because it's another topic. But you said some stuff that reminded me that, like, you're the dude who has the dirt, not the dirty, but a lot of info on the old school West Coast strain importers, the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. And if I remember correctly, you're keeping some of those genetics alive in your garden.
Yeah, I have one that it hatched, germinated, whatever.
Oh, nice.
In January of '84.
Nice.
And that's the one I grow continually. And I don't know. I hope this isn't I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but a few years ago I joined one of the after you get a card groups here in Oregon,
Right.
and they have their private forums, and then people exchange cuts and everything. So I ran through all the names that I've been reading about for several years, and most of them didn't make it past day 30. With my only real review was, who would clone this thing twice? I mean, I can see you plant a seed, and you take it up to a certain height, and you take some cuts, but after you flower it once or twice, why would you continue? I mean, you're just giving a whole bunch of good seeds a really bad name. I mean, some of them were just, oh, God. Purple Urkels are what I remember. I pulled 32 grams out of a 5-gallon pot. I mean, kiss me. It better make me see Jesus or something. If it's only 32 grams, it'd have to be like the best weed on the entire West Coast. I mean, what a joke. But I just want to say Purple Urkel's a joke. It's to say that some of the plants that people in the MMJ community, at least here in Oregon, keep and then pass off to others, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's all about selection. I mean, if
the
people
name
don't,
game
and if you don't know and you pass on to the next person, they assume that it's the bomb. So they're going to go put all their energy into that thing.
Exactly.
That's because enough people. There's not enough people cracking beans. That's the problem.
Well, that's another
In general,
thing.
it's most people are just passing around weak clones to each other and hoping that the other guy can't grow better than them. I mean, that's kind of what it all comes down to. Sabotage. Sabotage. It's a lot of sabotage. A lot of internal sabotage in the industry.
So we got a couple minutes left with you, Coot. I want to open it up to listener calls. If anyone has any questions on organics,
720-381-1420.
How to do it, why you should do it. Give it a call in now. We'll connect you live and direct. And if no one calls in, I know I always have a truckload of questions. Oh, I asked about the aloe vera earlier. Let's explain that. So that's always a quarter cup per gallon, right? That's your dosage still?
That's all you need, really. The best for most folks, if you live in an area where you have cold weather, this plant originated in Africa, so it doesn't do well with anything below 50 at all. But using the 200XX powder, and what that is that 1 gram of 200XX powder with 199 grams of water gives you the equivalent of pure, straight from the plant extract.
Gotcha.
So, but what comes into play here is that every rooting compound that's been used commercially or even anecdotally, salicylic acid, saponins, IAA, and IBA are in this plant. And salicylic acid is finally gotten the research that is needed starting about 10 years ago. And some soil botanists are classifying it now as a plant hormone. But you're also you're dealing with the full range of elements like any other good stimulator, like seaweed or kelp or alfalfa, but also it's specific enzymes.
Oh, we do have a call coming in, Coot.
We got a call. Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show. Who are we talking to?
Hi, this is Ben.
Hey, Ben.
How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm friends with Martin Moravchik and Alex. Do you know those guys from back in the day?
Oh yeah, for sure. How you guys?
For sure.
So where are you calling from, by the way?
I'm calling from Winnipeg, Canada.
I thought so.
Right on.
I figured so. I mean, that's what would make sense, right? Since that's where they're at. Awesome. So we got a question for Coot here.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
I wanted him to maybe if you could touch up on a little bit more on chelation, and in particular, does synthetic chelates like EDTA and stuff like that actually penetrate the roots and go into the plant? I've seen articles indicating that it does, but then I've seen a lot of more scientific articles saying that it doesn't even penetrate the roots. And then if you could also touch upon humic and fulvics and other natural chelators and how they actually work inside the plant. And just to top it off, if you could explain a little bit more on how chelation actually holds nutrients into the soil rather than just force-feeding plants.
That's a great lineup of question. If you're ever looking for a job,
question creator.
So have at it, Coot.
Let me touch real briefly because I think it's really germane to the overall program about kelp meal. Kelp meal, brown kelp, there's three classes of kelp, or marine algae, whatever you want to call it. Brown, red, and green. The only one that produces alginic acid and mannitol is brown kelp. And that's what you get out of the North Atlantic, the North Pacific, and the South Atlantic in and around, the tip of South Africa.
So it's colder waters?
Mannitol is a chelation agent, and an important one. My objection to using chemically synthetic chelated materials is we're back to the, oh my God, what's going to happen if? And I don't see the necessity of it. And if you go to a nutritionist, just for us, they're going to if you need calcium, they're going to recommend a calcium carbonate product. They're not going to recommend an EDTA chelated product unless they got some connection to the company. What confused things in Oregon and California is that, for reasons that are still remain somewhat baffling, they prohibit the use of the term fulvic on products. So, for example, BioAg has to sell their products under the name Full Power, hyphenated Full Power.
And they say it's humic, right? There's like purple and gold humic, and they call them all humic. Is that how it works?
Exactly. Yeah, that's because they view it as a subset of humic acid, which it is, but it's clearly put a lot of manufacturers at a disadvantage, especially the ones bringing the junk out of China. So fulvic acid is, among some of its function, is a chelator, but equally important in organics, real organics, it's hard to keep isolating this one thing and then forget, the cluster around it. Does that make sense? One of the things also is that it has a huge number of exchange sites, and so a specific ions, it can carry those into the plant's root and stomata.
So can we real quick, just to put that even a little more layman's, so like compost has a certain cation exchange capacity, humic acid even higher, and then fulvic's like way even higher than humic acid. Is that right?
Well, in terms of exchange sites, and so what you need to do when you look up a compound or an element, even Wikipedia will do for this, is that you'll see the molecular formula, and then equally important is the molecular structure of that compound or whatever it is we're looking at. And so when you look at the fulvic acid molecular structure, you'll see what I'm talking about, all these exchange sites, and those can catch on to specific ions and carry those into the plant. But setting that aside for a minute, once inside the plant's vascular system, fulvic acid, real fulvic acid, triggers specific RNA and DNA responses in the plant. And those have to do with the plant's systemic acquired resistance, its defense mechanism, if you will.
So the plant gets
and that's
more immunity almost. It gives it like its immune system pretty much.
Exactly. And that's where salicylic acid comes in.
Huh.
And that's another reason why you had such spectacular results when you use aloe vera, is that you're increasing the health of the plant. Think of it in terms of your own life. If you can eat bologna sandwiches every day, you'll sustain your life to some degree. But if you're eating, whole grains and organic produce and drinking really good water, you have more energy, you have more, your better defense against diseases. It's facts are facts.
I thought bologna was the cure. You just blew my world up there.
So I got to come back in the discussion and nutrition comparison, because we are about to bring on the folks from Bokashi from Grokashi, excuse me. And when we talk about a healthy diet, I'm a huge probiotics advocate, fermented foods advocate. It's just like my new shtick. I think it's a little it's faster than growing. You know, you get a lot more a lot faster, and you can actually eat it. You don't have to turn it into something that you can then get food with. So I've become a big fan of it. And so I believe Microbe Man's listening, so we do want to shout Microbe Man up, and I know he's been very busy, but we hopefully will get him on in a future episode. But everything we're talking about in a living soil, the micro life is what makes it happen, right? That's the fuel in the engine almost.
Correct.
And you usually
On the
do you do compost teas? Do you do fermented plant extracts and bokashis, or in your particular system, where are you at on that? And then bring these guys in and sort of continue sharing.
Okay, well, I'm going to be kind of an egotist here, but I create worm castings that compost tea brewers wish they could buy. So, you know, it's already there.
So you don't even have to make the tea; you can just use the castings.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
You know.
So, and now what about?
They're all.
The interesting thing about anaerobes to me, or about bokashi to me, is that you get like the anaerobic life that tolerates a little more. I don't know, a little.
I'm gonna have to. I have to beg off of this question a little bit because of this. I had 5 or 6 years ago. I was playing with the EM1 product.
Yeah.
And enhanced, whatever it's called. And then I picked up Joe Carandang's book.
Yeah, you turned me on to him too, and that's big life change,
so,
growth changer.
And I kind of did that for a while. But really, the only teas that I really do, nothing's fermented. The enzyme teas, in fact, you want to avoid fermentation. You know, that's like the big warning sign. Don't ferment this stuff. And then the other teas are usually limited to one or a combination of alfalfa, neem, and kelp, and that's pretty much it. And some top dressing. You know, I like to leave enough room at the top of my pots, which is why in the Smart Pot product they have regular 5 gallons comes in a regular horticulture bag, and one that's taller for tree saplings, and that's the one I like. Like at least the room at the top because I want to do a couple top dressings through the, you know, veg and through the flower cycle. Just, I don't know. Probably out of habit more than anything else. I'm not sure that.
Well, and one of the great things about growing living organics is, like, unlike with grown out of a bottle, like, you don't get to do those things grown out of a bottle. You will burn your plants if you're like, throw a little more in there. I think maybe use a little more. And when you're in organics, the soil just buffers that whole interaction. So let's add on. Let's add on the Grokashi guys and talk a little bit about. Is Coot and Jeremy, if you guys want to hang, I know Jeremy. I think you're going to start carrying Grokashi soon. So if you want to hang, you're certainly welcome to stay on the conversation. But we do want to kind of, for the last 20 minutes here, I don't know, Grokashi to me, and the shout out to the Probiotic Farmers Alliance on Facebook, the PFA group. They it's kind of become like that old Rolls group on ICMag, where a lot of the people who, I guess, out of the closet growers who are doing it on Facebook are sharing a lot of the new organics knowledge, and a lot of that stuff is getting propagated, pardon the pun.
Yeah.
And these Grokashi guys have been really popular on there, and I think they're turning a lot of conventional, or I hate the term conventional, synthetic growers, opening a lot of eyes to organics. And I don't know, dude, I haven't used the product, but have you seen this stuff, Adam? You like put it in the soil and it visible awesome fuzz.
I haven't seen it in action though. We like the fuzz.
Yeah, we like the well. Yeah. Hopefully they'll answer. Hey, is this? Are we talking to the Grokashi guys?
That's us. That's Team Grokashi. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Team Grokashi. This is Mitch from the Adam Dunn Show. You're on with Adam.
Hey, welcome, guys.
We also have Clackamas Coot on the line and Jeremy of Build a Soil.
Hey, Alan. Good to talk to you. Good to talk to you, man. Talk to you a little bit on the PFA group, you know, and really interested. I'm a newcomer to your show, but you know, I love what I've heard in the last couple of hours, especially when you guys were speaking about humic. That's right up our alley.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us, because I've never used Grokashi. That's something, you know, Adam and I were just talking about, and we want to talk to you guys and maybe get some for our own experimentation. We'll do that off air though. But why don't you tell us what Grokashi is, how it's made and what it does, what you've seen, and why people are loving it so much.
Let me give you some history on bokashi too, okay? Because, I mean, we're all pretty familiar with bokashis, right? Especially EM bokashi.
Right, that's what we were just talking about with Coot.
Okay, so in around 2008 or 9 at HempCon, one of my mentors, Cuauhtemoc Villa, he's a rep for SCD Probiotics. He met with Jack Hare and Eddie Leff. Eddie's my mentor and still a business partner here at Bokashi. And Cuauhtemoc really got the ear of these guys. And so when they came back from the show, they wanted to have someone that was with them, that turned out to be me, trained how to make these bokashi fermentations. And that was really interesting to me because I grew up in the dairy industry. My father and I helped pioneer the process of covering silage pits on dairies. So to me, it was like, oh, wow, we're going to do little tiny, mini, small-scale silage, you know? I hate working in the sun anyway, so this is a lot better in the shade. So we started making, or I should give credit now to Simran Raphael at Island Herb Bokashi. They couldn't get Cuauhtemoc, they couldn't take Cuauhtemoc to come and teach me, so Simran came and taught me to make a basic bokashi, a normal, by the recipe EM bokashi. And we made that for a little while because we wanted the healing fields to have a product. You know, we couldn't obviously do medical marijuana down there anymore, but we wanted to stay in the industry and we wanted to be of service. So we came up with this bokashi, and originally we called it Miracle Mulch. The more we learned about bokashi, because honestly it took me 3 or 4 years to get my head really completely wrapped around it, the more I realized that these fermentations are a lot like us. And so as I learned about epigenetics, because my wife and I were having fertility issues, I started learning how you would deal with a fertility issue. I was listening to like Gnostic Media with Jan Irvin and his interviews with Dr. Joel Wallach and Dr. Peter Glidden. And then I was also listening a lot to the podcast by, what's his name, the Bulletproof Exec.
Oh, yeah, the Bulletproof Coffee guy. We love that guy.
Incredible show, and the people that they talk to on there have incredible backgrounds also. And I started reasoning and thinking, what if I treated my 300-pound bokashi barrel as if it was a 300-pound woman with a fertility issue, and I was going to treat it epigenetically or nutritionally with everything it could possibly need. So when I did start doing my bokashi fermentations in that manner, the mycelium started coming out in the light and showing off more. We were showing people things they had never seen before. And I think that's why this has gone so far. I started out with 25 beta testers 8 months ago, and it was 50 and then 75, and then we stopped after the 4 months. And I was like, wow, the people that have showed interest in these technologies are incredible. And so we just let the bokashi beta tester group grow into the Probiotic Farmers Alliance, and I just stepped back and took a back seat. You know, we teach people critical thinking so that you can call out other members if they get loud on their use of logical fallacies, and people seem to love it. And I'm just so proud that we even birthed that group and the people that have come together there.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I was just saying, so Coot and I met, and Jeremy met on the ICMag Recycled Organic Living Soil. At first it was a thread, and then it turned into a subforum, and then we all got banned. So that's how that goes sometimes. But it caused this like little organics renaissance for a couple of years there. A lot of people got switched over. A lot of relatively high profile people opened their eyes to the possibilities of it. And I definitely credit you and PFA with doing that in our present time. You know, Facebook has, I think for the first time ever, been a major part. Adam, this is an interesting Adam question.
Tell me.
What do you think about all these growers talking on Facebook?
I mean,
it could never have happened 5 years ago, even though it would be insane, right?
Of course. And it's still kind of like, I mean, it depends on what state you're in and stuff too. I mean, it's not the smartest thing. It depends on your IP address, I guess. If you're in Colorado, you should be fine. But even then, it's like, I mean, we need better avenues. Facebook is just such a cop thing. I'm like,
Facebook's such a cop thing. They're even blue. Their logo's blue.
Everything about it
looks like a cop.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this, but when you start talking about the type of people that would be interested in probiotic farming, you're going to find that's about 5% of farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those 5% are truly probiotic. And when we know the truth on a matter, or we have a technique that we put through the scientific method ourselves that is cutting edge, we're not afraid to get out there and give that information away.
Well, once it's on Facebook, you give it away.
I will put myself at risk. You know, some of my farming techniques, like the anaerobic hydroponics,
that's actually one of the coolest things I've ever heard of anyone doing.
Possible if we did not show it to them and show it to them 3 times in a row, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and you've definitely opened a lot of people's eyes.
It's a double-edged sword. Yeah, I could be prosecuted for what I'm giving you, but you know what? Do good and fear no man.
Yeah, bud. That's what I'm saying. I think that should be our show motto now. Do good and fear no man. I couldn't agree more with that statement. So let's go back into like. Oh yeah, please.
Excuse me, I didn't catch your name, sir.
Oh, I'm Alan
from Grow Coffee. Alan, I'm Kate.
I'm one of the co-owners of Grow Coffee.
Right. I had a question. What medium are you using for the actual Bokashi brand for the sake of discussion? Or are you doing that? I guess that's really the question.
Well, it seems like these microbes, their favorite food is wheat. It seems like we're eating the wrong food. We're eating the food that the microbes, that the world builders should be eating.
Right.
You know, they love to multiply in that.
When I was testing it out, at the farm store, I could buy rice bran, organic rice bran, organic wheat bran, and organic oat bran. And quite honestly, because of the number of worm bins that I run, most of that went into, in small doses, went into the worm bins for processing. And like I said, I started with EM1, and then I kind of migrated over to Gil Carandang's methods because I borrowed from something I know about, which is artisan bread baking.
Is that the lactobacillus?
Yes.
Can I tell you a weird
bread
fact,
baking,
real
for
quick?
example?
When you make artisan bread, according to old books, in the crust is when the PNSB would build up.
Right. And so it's a balance of wild yeast and lactobacillus, and it's lactobacillus which gives the specific flavor. For example, the one that you find in San Francisco, it's indigenous to that area, is why if you want honest-to-God San Francisco bread, you better be mixing it and baking it in San Francisco.
So that's
it's not going to work.
That flavor is the lactobacillus that's in just wild in the air in San Francisco. That's crazy. That's crazy, right?
But you were talking about biomimicry, then your lacto would come from the different breeds of the animals that herded through the area, right? That migrated through.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And historically, that's kind of sweet. And what was kept there, and
the old bagel theory, the old New York bagel theory.
Well, that may explain New York bagels too. They always said it's the water, but it could very well be the microlife.
The funk. Crazy. It could be just the New York funk.
That New York funk.
You got to have that New York funk.
Well, and interesting.
So simple when we just relate it back to biomimicry.
The very interesting thing to me is that when now all this research is coming out, I've seen in the past 6 months, a lot of studies finally being completed about how definitely, without a doubt, gut bacteria affects your mood. Definitely, without a doubt, gut bacteria affects your metabolism. And you start.
Well, it all starts in your gut. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
But then you start to think of the general differences between a place like New York and a place like San Francisco, and how you have different ecologies, so you probably have different gut bacteria going on. Then the different types of foods that people eat, and the environment that harbors for different gut bacteria, and it might explain a whole friggin' lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And
that
if you have a
unlocks
dog.
a lot of knowledge, doesn't it?
So, Alan, I wanted to ask you, like, when you're making your grokashi, are you just feeding it special things? Or are you just kind of giving it extra special love and attention? What are your what is sort of makes it?
Well,
what have you discovered? I suppose.
Okay, like every fermentation ever, you're only as good as your water source. Okay, that being said, we have artesian water out at Cotto Peak that the wineries behind us, that's their claim to fame too. So it starts with the water, and then you can breed in the microbes in the bokashi using just what you would use in like the EM1 blend with the. But if you go ahead on top of that and you add all of everything that you would need, like I said earlier, to treat a person of that weight for a fertility issue with nutrition.
So, what sorts of things would those be?
With it. So, in my bokashi, I have wheat bran, purified water, blackstrap molasses, micronized trace minerals. That's azomite. Beneficial microorganisms. That's our EM1. I use organic beet juice, and I also use an organic multivitamin mineral complex.
Coot, I would love to get your feedback on that.
I'm going to have to beg off because.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, please.
So this is. I just want to say this. The reason why bokashi never caught on here in the United States with so many Europeans is the same reason why kimchi never caught on. They just don't feel it.
Right.
So when I started calling a bokashi a garden dread and teaching people from European ancestry how their ancestors would have, what they would have done with the dregs from their beer and their winemaking and such, or their mead making, then all of a sudden they got the technology. There was like a cultural impasse that was not allowing people to really feel the concept.
Yeah, I definitely.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100%.
I think a lot of growers, especially, that's something because we preach cleanliness, right? Mm-hmm. And we think of bacteria as dirty, funky. And I think that's something that scares a lot of growers from even dabbling in organics. Adam, I want your perspective on the whole topic.
Well, a lot of people just want to rinse down and start over, and they don't want to ever build up their soil in the first place. I mean, and I think it's also the time constraint because people in the short, if you're not on a continual flow and you are like thinking about the next round and you're already starting the last one, then you're not that kind of grower, And I think so many people are like plug and play right now. They want to be able to just go in, do it, don't want to worry about having to keep colonies alive or using hydrogen peroxide, for instance, or something like that, and then, oh my God, I have to start all over again, because
killed everything.
Yeah, and people are just too quick to dunk their stuff.
I hear that, but what we found is a couple things. People are afraid of the apocalypse, number one. So if you teach these gardening skills as survival skills, they can put them in their back pocket. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the crazy thing about. I think that's one of the. Not crazy, coolest things about growing. Like Nestor came from the other way around. He was a food farmer, and he ended up becoming a pro grower. But for he
talks too much also.
Yeah, I know. These farmers talk a lot.
I'm absorbing all this. Yeah.
But a lot of us, like, I didn't know shit about growing. I'm from New Jersey, man. Like, I didn't have, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't grow food in New Jersey, and we certainly didn't ferment things. And
not on purpose, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And
we fermented the cow feed.
Oh, it happened. I didn't see it in where I was living. But that said, growing cannabis, which all right, there was definitely a great incentive to learn to grow cannabis and to learn to grow organically for all the reasons we covered in this show. But it opened my eyes to all these topics for not only my plants, but then by extension myself. And I live a more, I feel, healthful lifestyle. I eat like my plants eat. My plants eat like I eat. Like that's, I think, a base rule, right?
My plants eat way better than I eat, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, plants get priority. Plants get priority. If you got a big enough garden, that's for sure.
They definitely get to eat better than me.
If you use like one of those home fermenting bokashi buckets, and you see that the mycelium doesn't like what you threw in there, I suggest you change your diet.
Yeah, you need. That's what we were talking about before. Like when you go to compost the stuff you ate for dinner, you're like, yeah. And Rev talked about that too in his writing.
Yeah, so you want to eat good food and you want to make sure it works, right?
Yeah. And then you get to that point where you're like, I could compost that or I could throw it in. How hungry am I? I'll compost that.
Right, because you want to give your plants the very best.
Yeah, exactly. So we have about 4 minutes left, and we want to thank you definitely for being on. And Alan, so a birdie told me you also do the Emerald Cup. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm kind of like the Forrest Gump of pod. I never allowed people to use my picture, but I've been around for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm a judge for Emerald Cup.
You're a judge for Emerald Cup. All right, sweet. I was told you were like the Emerald Cup dude. So Emerald Cup's interesting to me.
No. You know what? I'm just happy they let me sit in their company.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's gurus, but literally gurus that sit at that table.
And Emerald Cup is really interesting to me and topical. Adam, have you been to
No,
Cup?
I wanted to go this year, but
I want to go, dude. Maybe we can pull a judge spot. That would be sweet.
That'd be good. We should
try that. But
we'll have a big PFA area there, so make sure you come to the PFA area.
For sure. What interests me about Emerald Cup, from what I hear, is that it's all organic. Everything has to be organically grown, and it's only organically extracted or ice water extracted. Or I guess dry sift as well. Hash is no BHO.
What this taught me, that a lot of people will still try to enter this synthetic material into the Emerald Cup, even though it says organic. I find that if we just simply start giving a Brix rating on the winners of all these contests and prove that they're nutrient dense, then we can really leverage the market away from these synthetic growers, because you can't get a high Brix rating with synthetic fertilizers.
There you go.
Brix,
it's a sugar.
Yeah. Let's explain. I know it's plant sugar, but yeah, Brix is the plant sugar. And
you got to get a Brix meter and start working with. You ever use those? They're good.
I haven't, but
$40 from Natural.
Yeah, they're just easy. You're just
and their CEO was so cool. He's like, I can't believe you're the first. I've been waiting for 10 years for someone from the cannabis industry to call me.
Really?
So,
Let's
do it. Let's get it. Sponsorship. Sponsor the show.
Yeah, I always buy a Brix meter at those trade shows whenever I'm at one, like in different place. Be like, grab.
And you find that's legit, right?
Oh, they're awesome. They're great.
And you talk about Brix a lot. One weird thing
will drop off like 10 days before you get a visual cue from the plant. So, I mean, if you're waiting for a visual cue, you're bumping it up against the law of minimum real hard.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the other thing I heard about Brix and harvest time, and the one book I left at home because it was gigantic, is the Rodale's Organic Gardening book, and it has a whole thing about time of day and Brix content and how that's huge in at least crops, and it's.
So you should do it the same time every day too, so you get the same.
You need to have continuity, yeah.
You don't
no,
but I mean, harvest time is what I mean to say.
Yeah.
And it's actually like.
It's not about that to me. It's about reapplying my new mulch layer in time. Because if you think about biomimicry, the herds came by early in the season, but then they came back by late.
Because they're that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So after I have bud set, I want to go ahead and re-amend at that point, like the herds came back by again.
That's a top dress. You'll top dress week 3, week 4.
Oh yeah. That's our whole thing. We create a mycelial layer on the top, and we feed everything through that mycelial mat. We use the mat as like a microfilter for microfiltration, but also for intelligent micro delivery.
That's I think that's awesome stuff. Coot, does that all line up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I started pursuing some other things, but it fascinated me enough for about a year and a half, and I don't know, I just didn't do it anymore or something, but it wasn't. I'm pretty happy with the level of microbes in my soil mix. But remember,
if we chose to have testing done at the labs or the clubs, then for specific probiotic microorganisms like the Streptomyces sp, if it tests positive, if the herb tests positive for these, it proves to the customer that the herb was never sprayed with a pesticide, it was never sprayed with a fungicide, and that it was grown in an earth-fair and friendly manner. It kind of even tells you that the runoff from that farm was beneficial. So we got to come together on at least this one issue and just decide what probiotic microorganism that would be killed off, by the pesticide or the fungicide easily. We got to decide on which one to have them test for.
That's really.
I like Rectomyces because
awesome
it scoops
idea.
out humic, and I'm a great big fan of humic.
For sure. And then people can make their own decision.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, I want to thank both of you. Unfortunately, we got to wrap up. I think we'll definitely be in touch. We may merit a whole other organics episode. Folks out there, if you're listening, let us know if you want to hear more on organics. It's been an honor to speak with both of you, and we'll certainly be in touch.
Super knowledge.
Yeah, like that was the most information dropped on the show.
The honor's mine, fellas. You know what I mean? I think all of us want the same thing. We want to be the solution to grower pollution.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for the invitation. I had a good time. Thank
Coot, I'm honored, man. I hope you got to see the High Times article. I hope I did you guys justice. Always huge respect. Pleasure getting to speak to you, actually hear your voice.
So bless you guys and gratitude, and anytime you want to talk, give us a call.
Sounds good, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care. So,
well, very informative stuff.
Right? That was like a good show.
Yeah, no, and the thing is there's so much depth to this stuff, and people get, it's kind of hard. Like even the experts there, takes them years to get their head around what's going on, because a lot of this stuff, it's out of our hands. You know what I mean? We're just setting it up. You set up the plate and then let everything go. It's,
you watch and see if you did it right.
Exactly. So it's kind of, and it's hard to. It's hard to teach those kind of things, because you have to do it. That's the key to the.
In some way, it's almost like a Rube Goldberg machine, like those crazy machines where it's like do, and then it hits the thing and it swings the hand, like the game Mousetrap.
Exactly, and then when it all works well, it obviously
you catch the guy in the thing. But that in Mousetrap, I
used to love that game.
Can you do that?
What's that?
Like, did you catch the guy ever? I think I did that once in my life.
The action in the game,
yeah. I guess I never set it up right.
I'm sure I cheated or something.
You're good. Yeah, well, no, you can do it if you do it by hand.
No, I think I've made it work. That thing was awesome.
Yeah,
they still
totally
make that?
Cool. I feel like there was once like a pilot for a reality show where there was a life-size one, and they had people in it, and I think that's
something that I would like to buy for my kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, gotta get that,
Birthday parties solved.
Yep.
Speaking of the kids,
let's do a little shout out. Shout out to my beautiful wife Cece and my son Nick, who are now in Stockholm, Sweden, loving life. He's killing the game. Yeah, he's a social beast, as she said. He's hanging out. He's like, he doesn't hang out with any 2-year-olds. He goes straight to the 10-year-olds, and he gets them all worked up. And after a while, they're like, "This kid's cool. Look at him. He's got a hat on. He's all cool." And then he's just, they're all like, "Later, Dick. See ya."
Nice.
Yeah, he's been killing it in Stockholm.
Nice, killing the game in Stockholm.
And a shout out to my mom and Alfie and Kojak and everybody out at the farm. They just picked up a big thing of dirt today. So
got the dirt.
Hopefully they listened to the show and picked up some tips. If not, they were going to be listening to it when I get there. Make sure.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll force them.
Yep. And I obviously am pleased to give a shout out to my remarkable wife, Reese, and my miraculous little baby, Farron. Dude, being a dad's pretty fucking cool. No one really told me the cool part.
Oh, well, it's like definitely as it goes along, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it only gets better," Yeah. And that's the truth.
That's the truth. We're back, guys. Hit us up, the Adam Dunn Show on Facebook, Adam Dunn Show on YouTube.
Last shout out to our big sponsors, Way to Grow, Incredibles, and the one we forgot, Boulder Wellness. 5420 Arapahoe in Boulder. If you're living there, obviously worth coming down there, and if you're from Denver, it's even worth the drive. So hit them up.
Are they wrecked yet?
No, real close.
Real close.
Yeah, they should have been already, but they're still holding out.
Boulder's a little silly with how they do things.
It's a little silly.
Yeah, so guys, be in touch with us. Check out the website, adamdunshow.com, for past episodes, and then you can subscribe to us on podcasts on your iPhone or through iTunes.
I saw we had some listeners from Scotland, so shout out to them.
Shout out to them. Shout out to PFA.
Amsterdam, sure. Anybody in Amsterdam listening? Al, hopefully you're listening. Somebody, who knows? We
had Canada on the line.
Little Petey.
International. We got to run it in translations. We got to get subtitles for the YouTube.
That's it. I know next week we're going to have guys from Aqua Labs here.
Oh, yeah.
So that is for sure.
Oh, shouts to Rambler.
And Rambler, boom. Thank you.
Dude, thank you.
Been working well. been working well. This is the first time Mitch got to even see it. So.
Yeah, and totally black and white wigwag. That's what I said. Dude, you killed it. All right, I believe we are way over out of time.
Way over out of time.
Catch
See
you
you
guys
guys.
next week.
Thank you.